I have never taught an OLLI summer course, and I never teach in summers, and I was kind of moved to do a summer course because of, well, the state of the world, kind of following perhaps Michael's course a bit, although we're going to do two very different courses. So let me explain what I'm getting at here. I kind of had a moment where I looked out over the world and I thought, I need to try to make sense of this. So war, violence, and humanity. We are going to start with the question, very fundamental question, which is, what is war and why do we have it? And we will explore the works of strategists, for instance, but we'll also take an even deeper philosophical view and ask ourselves, why do we have people who strategize what is in effect the mass mobilization of humans with weapons to kill each other in order to obtain a goal, which when you think about it is actually kind of just crazy. So we're going to talk about, the history of warfare, but also where it comes from. Why do we have strategy? Kind of go all over the place and really understand why we have this thing, why we accept, even the Red Cross, which monitors, for instance, weapons that are both permissible and impermissible in war, says you can't use a weapon that causes unnecessary suffering, but you can still kill in an organized way, which is a very strange thing when you think about it. From there, we'll situate war itself in the larger context of this question of violence, which is, there's a deep question here, which is, why do we have so much violence? In last year, in 2021, we spent an estimated $11 trillion related to trying to contain forms of violence in the world. That's an enormous amount of money, and it doesn't speak well for we as humans. So are we, as someone argue, are we simply hardwired for violence, and that all that money goes to constrain us from what we really are? Or are we, as people like Robert Sapolsky or perhaps Steven Pinker would argue, evolving as a species and with each generation getting less and less violent and more empathetic? So we'll explore some biology, some psychology, neuroanatomy, all sorts of things to try to figure out who we are. And then from there, we go into a larger question of humanity, which is, in essence, on the one hand, we have this war, we have this violence, but we are also equally traumatized by it. So we clearly have a human reaction to all of the violence associated with us. And quite frankly, we have the same reaction to a lot of the violence in the world around us. When we see violence inflicted upon other species, we often say, I have to look away, I can't see this. We'll talk a bit about the wonderful play and adapted movie War Horse in that context. So we have, aspects of humanity that seem to say, we're horrified by this, so we ought to do something about it, versus we may have to confront the uncomfortable truths that some part of us is attached to it. Can we really escape it? Which brings us into the very last and fourth week, which is, who are the peacemakers? Who are the people that keep trying throughout human history to stop wars, to cultivate peace between us, between countries everywhere? Who are they? What motivates them? And why, in spite of having so many people doing that, why do we still have things like the war in Ukraine, which, if you're like me, you wake up every morning and think, please tell me this is a bad dream and this isn't really happening. And so that's kind of what I thought I would do as a class. Like all the other instructors, I'm so open to a discussion, to emails, to everything. So much to talk about, but I do hope to see you there. Well, that'll be it for me. Over and out. On to the next class.